Today I have a Prima 27-inch LCD TV, model LC27U16. It's dead. I've never worked on a Prima before, so this will be a first for me. I have no idea what's wrong with this thing. Likely it's in the power supply, but let's get the back off it and find out what's going on. It seems like it's been pouring TVs lately, as you can see in the background there. This one back here, this is my 50-inch plasma that I've ordered a buffer board for, and hopefully that will be here next week and I'll be able to get that one back up and running, and then hopefully things will calm down just a bit and I'll actually get some breathing space and actually be able to bring my car back into the garage where it belongs rather than parking it out front. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take the stand off of it, and then I can remove all the screws to remove the back, because it looks like the stand on this thing is actually attached, or the back is attached by the stand. So like I have to take the stand off this thing in order to get the back off, which was quite common on a lot of the earlier televisions. Now, in case you don't know anything about Prima, Prima was a company that was just rebranding Chinese-made televisions. They were actually set up in Richmond, BC, Canada, here on the west coast. And I guess about 10 years ago, the company I worked for was involved in the labor dispute, and we were off work for a while, so was looking for something to do. And actually, I was approached by Prima. They wanted me to go and work for them, and I toyed with the idea, but I knew it was only going to be a temporary gig, and they wanted me on a permanent basis, not just a temporary gig, so I passed on it. Good thing I did, because I don't think we see much of them anymore, but they were one of the brands that was around there about 10 years ago. I haven't seen them in a while, so I don't know whatever happened to the brand, but I'm sure that you know, the company that made this TV is still making TVs. They're just sticking different nameplates on them now. But anyway, I got the screws out, so let's lift the back off it and see what the guts look like. One thing that needs to be noted, if you want to work on one of these things, you got to actually remove these screws in here so you can pull this panel off, get the tuner and stuff out of the way, because there are more screws down here that have to come out that hold the back on. If you don't release this bracket, you won't get that screw out in order to remove the back properly. Well, this thing's really a dog's breakfast to get this thing apart. You actually have to fish this whole panel, because this cable or this connector on here is soldered on. So you got to fish that through to get the TV apart. But once we got the TV apart, we see that it's distinctly, I guess there's like 4 modules in this thing. We've got this is the signal board on here. And this one here would be, I don't know, probably the control board. You'll see it's got the plugs for the front panel, or for the power and stuff, plug into here. And your timing controller and power supplies and stuff for the lights are there. And this big one here, this is going to be the power supply. We know that because here's our power input. Our power input's going right into this module here. So this is the one I'm going to focus on, because it said it's completely dead. Let's pull the power supply out and look and see if we find any caps that are bad in this thing. We actually have to remove this bracket. This is the back bracket that you could wall mount it with. This has to be removed because it's going to hold the power supply in place even with the screws removed for the power supply. It's not going anywhere with this bracket mounted, so the bracket has to be removed. A lot of these circuits generated a lot of noise that could interfere with radios and other electronics, so the manufacturers tended to have to shield them just to pass certification. We don't see that on the new ones. The new ones, you open them up and there's just a couple boards in them. For one reason is the voltages are a lot lower now. The older ones used to run at higher voltages. Higher high-speed switching voltages generally caused more spurious emission. The newer sets run at much lower voltages. The signaling voltage is typically half a volt on low voltage differential signaling, LVDS. So these ones here could be 5 volts TTL switching, don't know, right? But the new ones, typically the voltage is a lot lower, the chances of interference are a lot lower, and you don't need all the shielding that you did on the old sets. So here's the power supply. Just lift this out, and it looks like it plugs in a couple places. Looks like it plugs in over here to this board, and it plugs in to that board. So now we've got the separate power supply, and again, it's held together with a bunch of screws. We'll crack this thing open and see what's going on inside this unit. Well, here's the inside of the power supply, and I don't see any bulged caps, but I do see one that's probably bad. This one right here looks kind of funny. And that capacitor is more than likely in the soft start circuit. A lot of these switching power supplies operate is when they first are plugged in, a capacitor charges and provides a kick as it charges to get the oscillator going. And the symptom on sets like this is they could have been running fine for many years, and they're turned off, they're unplugged, the power fails, or they're unplugged or something, right? They're off, and then they go to plug them back in, and it won't start. And that's typically the symptom of a soft start circuit that's gone bad. And there's typically a couple capacitors in that circuit, and they're usually fairly small ones. And this one here, just from the look of this one, it's not bulged, but it looks like it's been hot. Because as you can see, normally the plastic wrap, oh, this one here feels like it's coming right out. Look at this. Holy smoke, let's get the board out. This one's not even soldered in. Look at that. Pull the thing right out. Incredible. Let's get the board out. That's gonna be fun. Looks like all these heat sinks gotta come out. All these heat sinks around the side here are gonna be in the way, but very interesting. Yeah, we got a bad connection on this thing for starters. That's for starters. What else is wrong with this thing? I bet you it might just be as simple as a connection. But that capacitor here looks like it's been hot, just from the plastic. Normally it wraps around the top of it, and if the capacitor overheats, maybe not to the point where it vents, but if it gets close to that temperature, when it heats up, the plastic itself can start to shrink, and it'll pull back as it shrinks, and you get this type of appearance. But that may be a secondary problem. The soft start may be fine. It may just be this capacitor that's not soldered in place. Typical Chinese manufacturing. And to think that I actually, for a brief moment, considered working for this company. I think what put me off was when they said, well, we don't actually order any parts in here. What we do is when the TVs come back, we check them out, and if they're broken, we open them up and we cut them for parts, and we use modules from one to fix another. That was the way that they solved problems, was they just swapped out modules. And judging from the quality of that part there, I'm sure they probably swapped a fair number of them. Okay, so now this thing's out, and where's that capacitor that's coming apart? It actually looks like it is soldered. It's right here. It is soldered, but it looks like the leads have failed. That cap has gone bad, and the actual leads going into the component themselves. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's loose. I can see it here. You can see it right there. Let me zoom the camera in. So that's it there. You can see it if I move the part. You'll see it wiggling through the top. See it there? Right here. So we'll resolder that one. We'll just do a quick ESR measurement on that cap that looks like it's bad. It might not be, because it's a 4.7 microfarad at 450 volts. And a 4.7 microfarad, well, the highest my ESR meter will go is 4.7 at 250 volts, and it says 5 ohms. So if this thing's lower than 5 ohms, I think we're okay on this one here. So we measure it here, and it's measuring .09. I don't know if you can see that or not. We'll just back the camera off so you can see it. Okay, here we go again. Here it is. 0.08. I think that, and I can tell you my meter is zeroed. That one's okay. That's the startup cap for the kicker to kick the oscillator into running, and it's on the primary side. It's fine. The problem with this thing is just this one that's come unsoldered. That's why it's not working. I should check the ESR on them for the hell of it just before I solder it back in. But I bet you that's all it is. I bet you the capacitor itself is fine because there's no bulging tops or anything on here. It's just come unsoldered. So this is it. Where was it here? This is it here, and yeah, 0.03. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. All it is a cold solder connection. And that's all that's going to be wrong with this TV here. So make note of that, guys. If you've got one of these TVs, C3 or C939 right here, check that out. It's just not even soldered down properly to the board. So here's our cap right there that we're going to solder. I'm just going to resolder that onto the board. While I'm at it, I'm going to also get my big magnifying glass out here, and we're going to go look at some of the other connections. There's one bad. There's probably more than one that's affected. So I'm just going to look at this and see if I can spot any others that could be cause for concern while I've got it apart. Yeah, this resistor here looks like it's probably needs to be redone too. This one right down here, you see? Let's see if I wiggle it and see if anything happens. That one there kind of looks kind of suspect. We'll redo that one at the same time. Even this transformer here looks like it could have some attention on the pins on the transformer. I see some cracking right around here. The diode over here could be redone too. I think this diode over here probably should be redone. So let's just resolder the diodes and the transformer, and because I don't want to have to be doing this thing again when I put this thing back together. Well, I don't think I'll be having this TV. I'll put this thing together and sell it, but you never know. I want it to last for at least for a while. The last thing I want to do is sell some of the TV and have them come back. I liked electronics from the good old days where you bought a TV and you knew that you were going to have that TV for 10 or more years. That was the good old days. Not anymore. Nowadays, you get 5 or 6 years out of your TV, you're doing pretty good. And it's not that it's such a bad design, it's just a lot of it's, the design is good. It's just, they're built for a price point. They cut corners on some of the components. They can save a buck here and save a buck there by going to a cheaper part. That's what they're going to do. Now we got to put all these clips wherever I did with them. Here they are. Put all these clips back on, and then we can reassemble the power supply. That one doesn't have very much tension on it. We'll just try tensioning that up a bit. All these are just little springs, and they squeeze. The diodes are all, and the transistors are all in a rubber cap to insulate them. And these things just squeeze them onto the metal heatsink. I'm getting kind of anxious to see whether this is going to fix this TV. What do you bet? You think it'll fix it? Myself, I think it'll fix it. So there we have the power supply back together. I'm just going to mount it back in the chassis now. We'll get it plugged in and see what happens. So first we'll plug our power plugs back in. So many screws on this set. Reconnect the main power cord. Now, I'm faced with this dilemma. Should I put the back on, or should I test it? I think I'm going to go out on the limit. I'm just going to put the back on this set, because after finding that capacitor that was completely unsoldered, I'm pretty confident that we've got the problem solved. Now I do have to put the back on it in order to hook up the cords to test it. In order to put the stand on it, I mean, I guess I could attach the stand and kind of hang the back off of it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the back on. I won't put all the screws in it. I'm just going to put the back on and attach the stand so that I can stand the set up and test it. And then if everything's good, which I'm sure it will be, then we can go ahead and put the rest of the screws in the back. So there's the back cover. I gotta plug in the switches, because I don't have a remote for this thing, so I won't be able to turn it on without the panel switches. Okay, now we've got the plug back in. We have to kind of fish this, kind of take this thing off sideways like this, pull this antenna connector through. It's kind of a stupid way the back goes on the set, and then it slides over and drops down. Kind of like that. Yeah, so this is an absolutely ridiculous design, this thing. I'm going to shut the camera off here while I curse and fight with this thing. Well, there we go. About 10 F-bombs later, I finally got the stupid back on this thing. What a ridiculous, ridiculous setup this is. And here we go, some more of these silly screws to hold every piece of the back on. It's like, what drugs were they smoking when they came up with this type of a design? I mean, just this entire bracket, that you actually have to remove this bracket in order to get some screws out that are underneath it. You know, unbelievable. That's that. Now we can put this base back on it with the heavy duty screws that hold this on. I hope these are the right ones, because as I say, there are so many different size screws on this TV. It's unbelievable. Getting the moment of truth. Power. Oh, I got a light. I have a light. Ah! Ha 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 ha! I fixed it. I fixed it. I fixed it. Another one. Let's get this thing. Nice flashy screen. Let's get this thing hooked up and see how it looks. Well, this thing could have a good picture if I could figure out how to adjust the aspect ratio, which I don't have the remote for it, so I'm just hoping that I can go through the menu on here and select. Oh, good. Whoops, where am I here? picture. Okay, I gotta figure out how to move this thing down. Oh, there we go. Size. Size mode, where are we here? I gotta figure out what I'm doing. Size, okay. Zoom. Zoom 1. How about full? There we go. Now, get out of the menu. I've just got a Blu-ray playing here. The menu off of it. We'll just start it playing here. I don't want to run this for any more than a few seconds because you know how YouTube gets for copyright, so we'll cut this off pretty quick here. I just want to see how it looks, and then I'm going to go and put something on of my own that I can run on this thing and not have to worry about getting popped. But let's just take a look at how we can adjust the picture. It's nice that it's got the menu on the side. A lot of them don't. Like a lot of TVs, if you don't have the remote control, you're kind of pooched. But menu. But this one here appears that you can adjust it without using the remote control, and it's looking pretty good. This actually does look to be a 1080 TV. Nice and sharp. I mean, it's typical LCD, right? It's got the contrast of an LCD, but it's actually not bad. It's not bad at all. I'm just going to turn out the lights here and give this thing an evaluation. But thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next informative video. Bye for now.